So guys, now our OpenVPN server setup is completed, and also we have configured it in order to successfully log into our network. Now our next part is we need to deploy three instances. Okay, so one search head, one indexer, and one universal forwarder. Then we'll see how we can log forward from the universal forwarder to the search head, and through the help of the configuration file. So everything we'll be doing in this particular session will be completely through the help of configuration files. Fine. So now that being done, so now we'll get back to our basically into our AWS console, and we'll be launching instances, three instances basically. Okay. Okay. So I'll name this as search head one. Okay. So let everything be same. So the Amazon Linux, which we'll be preferring right now. So the key will be my infra key. Okay, so I'll edit this and give that the first subnet. Okay, so this is the subnet which will be operating every time. Okay, so right now I will be not be assigning any public IP to this particular instance because I have access to this particular instance, right? So into the network, sorry, we have access to that particular network. So we don't need to assign a public IP address now. We can use a default private IP addresses. Okay, so now I have already created an infra security group, right? I'll be selecting that by default, and I'll be launching an instance. Great. So that launch is happening. Meanwhile, we'll deploy two more instances. Okay. So we'll click on launch instance, and now I will name this as indexer one. I will see if okay, I will select the key pair name. I will edit this thing, and I will give the subnet first subnet, which is showing it to me. I will disable the public IP addresses, and I will select the existing security group, which is my infra security group, and I will click on launch instance. Okay, now we'll be deploying our final EC2 instance, which is going to be a universal forwarder. So guys, please remember, so these all instances which you are deploying, right? So these are all Linux instances. Okay, so I will name this as universal forwarder one. Right, I've selected the key pair name, VPC, let it be default. Subnets, I'll be selecting the first subnet which is showing to me. I will select an existing security group, and I will select the default security group, right? So that being done now, so what we will do, we'll try to test out whether we are able to successfully log into the instances or not. So for that, just open this particular search head one, and we'll be able to see the private IP addresses. Now you guys notice, right, we are not able to see public IP address because we disabled the public IP addresses while deploying our instance, right? So I will try to log into this particular instance now. So just copy this particular now, and what I will do, I will type here SSH hyphen I, then the key, okay, then EC2 user at the rate the IP address. Fine. So let's try to log in. Right. So if you are getting this particular thing, this means that your configuration and your OpenVPN server, everything is working very great. So that's why we are able to access all those things right now. So now that being done, now what we will do, right? So we will deploy our Splunk in this particular instance, and we'll do the basic configurations. Okay, guys. So what I will do first, in order to download the Splunk, what we have to do, you have to go to Google, and basically you need to get that downloading file. Okay, so I will go here. So guys, one more thing to note, right? So this particular instance, right? The instance which is our EC2 instances. So these instances will not have any connection to the internet. Okay. So what method I'll be using right now is, so they'll not be able to download that particular file directly from the internet. So what I will be doing is, so I will be downloading that particular file in our OpenSSH server or the OpenVPN server, and from there I'll be transferring the files to the Linux instances as needed. Okay, guys. So how I'll be showing you the process for one particular instances. Okay, so how I'll be doing it. Okay, so if you click on this, get my free trial, right? It will ask you to log in. You can create your free account here over here. Okay, okay. So this is our download page. So I will be downloading for the Linux environment. Okay. So now before hitting on download, let me log into our instance. Right, guys? Okay. So we'll connect to our OpenVPN server, and we are going to download the Splunk executable file, and from there onwards we are going to transfer it to the other Splunk instances. Okay, guys. So the command is same for that: ssh-i myinfrakey.pem, then the username openvpn as, and then the public IP address. Okay, great. So we are there in that particular instance. So once we are there, guys, so what we have to do, so we can download this particular file. I'll be clicking on download now. Okay, so then I will be clicking on this download via command line, and I can pause this one. I can download this one and copy this complete thing and paste here. S- Okay, so I'll try to become root here so that I can do it. Okay, so now I'm going to do that. Now, guys, you can see right, the file is downloaded completely, and also I have transferred the key to this particular system as well. So basically the OpenVPN server. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer this particular downloaded file, which you see over here, Splunk 9.1.2. So I'm going to transfer it to my other Splunk instances. Okay. So now we are going to transfer the file. So for that, the command is scp-i, then the key, which is myinfrakey.pem, then the file name, which you are going to transfer, then the user, ec2 user, at the rate. Sorry. So there is one error, guys. We have to add the path as well, colon backslash home slash ec2 user. You see the file is getting transferred now. Okay. So once the file is transferred now, what I'm going to do is I'm exiting the session from here. Okay. So I have disconnected my OpenVPN session. So let me go to my downloads folder and again reinitiate my connection. Okay, let me open a new terminal, and now let's get into that machine. And my infra key. Now I'm going to log into my EC2 user to this particular network. So this is the search head one where I'm going to go now. Okay. Now if you do a quick ls, you'll be able to see this file, right? Now become root here. Now what we will do, we will initiate our installation of the Splunk in this particular. So for that, first we have to extract this particular file. That's great. It is done now. So what I will do now, if I do an ls, I am able to see that, right? Now what I will do, I will move this Splunk to slash opt. Okay. So now if I go to slash opt slash Splunk, so here everything is present for me. So now to initiate the installation, we have to do is dot backslash Splunk start. So it is going to ask us the license. Just click space and it will be taking you through all of the agreement. So just click on Y. Okay. You have to create a username. Okay. So that username will be dedicated to your Splunk instances. So basically the administrator account. You see many things will be happening here. Okay, so you see, right, the Splunk web interface is at HTTP, and this states that the Splunk is on now. So in order to verify whether it is actually on, what we can do is just type here HTTP colon backslash backslash and the IP address of this particular instance, so which is the private IP address. So we can access this to the private IP address as we have access to the network. So if you see here, network. Meanwhile, our console is launching. So there is one more command that we have to do, guys. Okay, so that is dot backslash Splunk enable boot start. So what happens, right, guys, for this? If you execute this particular command, so every time when this particular instance or the EC2 instance when it will restart, so the Splunk will also start again. If you don't give this particular command, so the Splunk won't start again whenever this system is basically restarted. Okay, so now let's back to our come back to our browser, and you see, right, guys, we are able to see the console here. So there are few settings that we have to do initially. So we'll do it very quickly. Go to settings, go to server settings. So as because this is a free instance, right? So the indexing spaces will be varying. So just go to general settings. So you might get errors later stages. So we can suppress that. So just put it to 50 and click on save. Pause indexing. Okay. So once that is done, go to your settings once again and go to your server controls and just restart Splunk. Okay, before proceeding to our next instance, there is one more configuration changes that we have to do here. So let us quickly do that. So basically that configuration will be regarding what we have to do is we have to tell the Splunk like you need to bind 172 the private IP address to the Splunk, right? So every time that particular so that all our instances which are there in the network can reach out to this particular Splunk instance to that particular IP address 172. So basically, you see, right, the web GUI, which you are able to see, that is by default by default you are able to see it, right? So, but the management ports and all those things won't be available by default. So, management port in the sense so through which all the management or the actual functionalities happens, okay, for the Splunk. So basically, you have to do those configuration changes. So for that, you have to go to cd/opt/splunk/etc/system/default, okay, in this particular part, and do a cat on web.conf. Sorry, we'll do nano. Okay, so now once you are here, you need to find one option which is management host port. Okay, so here you see, right, 127.0.0.1. So you have to change this to the private IP address of the instance. Okay, okay, so that being done now. So now one more thing what you have to do, just go to now cd/opt splunk etc. Okay, here you will be able to see Splunk launch conf. Okay, so now do a quick nano on this Splunk launch.conf and put one settings here Splunk underscore bind IP, which is equal to the private IP address. Okay, so these are the two configurations that you need to do. Now, after doing these two configuration changes, you need to get back to the opt splunk/bin and you need to restart this particular instance or basically restart the Splunk. Now you see, right, now all over, if you see this particular logs, you see, right, all the HTTP port, management port. So these are our two concerns. So these two are now launching on the private IP addresses. So now our Splunk on the search head is fully functional and it's active now. So now the next things what we will do is the same thing we'll be doing on our Splunk indexer. So the indexer instance. Okay. So I'm right now I'm there in my OpenVPN server. If you see here, I'm already there in my OpenVPN server. So what I will do now, I will transfer this Splunk executable again to that particular instance, which is the indexer instance. Okay. Okay. So this was my previous command, which I used for EC2 for the search head. So what I will do, instead of this particular IP address, I will change it to the IP address of the indexer one. Okay. So our Splunk executable has been transferred to that particular instance. So what I will quickly do now, so I will exit out from my search head instance and I will log into my indexer instance now. So same thing what we have done for the search head, we have to do it here as well. So we have to, I'll become root here. If I do an ls, you'll see that that Splunk instance is already present here. So what I will do, I will extract this particular thing. So first thing is star xzf Splunk. Fine. Okay. So now what I will do, I will move this particular file to /opt Okay, so I will quickly hop into that particular directory. Now I will I will start this particular instance. So same thing, it will again ask me for the license agreement. So we'll quickly accept that. So it is going to ask me the credentials. Okay. You see, right, the Splunk interface is available now. So what I will do, I will go to that particular URL as well again to show you 1000. And now, so the meanwhile the URL is loading, right? So this is again the same instance. So basically in the indexer, but and this was in the search head, and this is our indexer. So now what I will do, the three configuration changes that we had to do, actually four after the deployment of our Splunk, there are actually four things we have to do. We'll do it now. Okay. So first thing is, so let me clear out the screen. Dots backslash Splunk enable boot start. So this is for enabling the boot start. So that every time the server restarts, so the Splunk also gets started at the same time. So once that is done, now what we will do is, so we will go to this particular configuration file, Splunk slash etc. Okay, so now I will nano Splunk launch.conf. Okay, so here I need to put Splunk underscore bind IP equal to that particular IP address, and we will save this particular file. Now, next thing is we need to go to cd slash opt slash Splunk slash etc slash system slash low default. Okay, and we'll nano the web.conf. Okay, and I will paste the same IP address here as well. So our the IP address configuration is done. Now we have to do a small configuration change in the web server as well. That is changing the index rate. So this is done now. So what we will do next is we will go to the settings. We'll go to server settings. We'll go to general settings, and here in the pause indexing, we'll change it to 50. Just click on save. Okay. Once that is done, now what we will do is we are going to restart our instance. Okay. So I'll go to cd slash opt splunk bin, and I'm going to restart this particular server. Okay. So if we go back to our architecture diagram, so we have successfully deployed our search head and indexer. Now finally what we have to do is we have to deploy our universal forwarder instance as well. So once these three are done, we have to do few configuration in order to connect all the threes and get the log and see the logs on the search head. Okay, so now let's complete our deployment on the universal forwarder now. Okay, so meanwhile, see, this is being launched right now. So now what we have to do is we'll get back to our browser, right? So our this particular instance is also started now. The restart is completed successfully. Now the next thing what I'm going to do, hmm, I'm going back to my the Splunk download page. So if I go back, okay. So if I go back to the Splunk Enterprise download page, now instead of the Splunk Enterprise, I am going to download the Universal Forwarder, right? So I'll click on this, get my free download. Okay. So I'm going to download it for the Linux environment. So click on Linux, and we what we are going to download is this .tgz1. Okay. So we are going to click on download now. Hmm, hmm. Okay. So same thing again, I'm going to download it from my wget and I'm going to pause the downloading here. So I'm going to get this particular command completely. Now I'm going back to my OpenVPN server now, guys. Okay. So the OpenVPN server IP address is 141. So this is the OpenVPN server. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to paste this command. So meanwhile, the download will happen. So once the download is happen, guys, now what we have to do is we have to transfer this particular file again to the instance, which is the universal forwarder now. Okay. So what I will do now, so we have already the command handy, scp command. So there are a few changes we have to do here now. So we have to remove this particular Splunk one completely. So instead of that particular file, we are going to transfer now Splunk forwarder, right? So now, and we also have to change the IP address as well. So we'll change this particular IP address to the universal forwarder IP address. That being done, so now let us quickly log into our universal forwarder. Sudo super. Okay, we are already in root. Sorry. Let me expand the screen. So ssh-i, same command, but instead of this, I will be putting the IP address of the universal forwarder. So okay, once I get into this, I will become root here. Okay, see the Splunk forwarder is here, right? So what we have to do, just extract this particular file. Now move this particular Splunk forwarder to /opt. Once that is done, now we have to get into the /opt Splunk forwarder and bin path and just start this. So again, same thing, we have to accept the license here as well. Okay, give the say administrator name. Okay, so our Splunk universal forwarder is there. It's launched now. How do we know it is launched? Just you can type /Splunk status. Okay, so now coming back to our architecture diagram, guys. So everything is deployed now. Our search head is deployed, our indexer is deployed, our universal forwarder is even deployed. Now in order to see the logs and all those things, we have to do some changes here. Okay, some configuration things we have to do. Then we are able to, basically we have to connect the universal forwarder to the indexer, and as well, and the search head should get connected to the indexer in order to search the logs. Okay, so let us do those configurations very quickly.